Hello, and today we're going to be discussing something I've kind of touched upon in the past, but I want to discuss a bit more in depth, um, and that's looking at kind of buying singles and some of the best places to do that. So, for me, I'm lucky where I live. I've got a number of game shops, but we don't have many that sell singles anymore. Um, but we've got one. There's a number of them in uh, around the UK. Uh, Card Empire, which they've just got a small one where I am. I don't know about their other sites where they sell singles for Yu-Gi-Oh and Pokemon, amongst other products, so sleeves, playmats, other merch linked to what they sell. But these are good places to pick up singles. They have some of the more expensive ones on display, but then they've got binders full of kind of singles, kind of alphabetically organised, and they've got one full of deck cores, which are quite cheap and easy to pick up. You know, I love their stuff. I'm picking stuff up like 50p, 10p, occasionally a bit more of expensive card. But deck that I will show you, I've nearly finished. I picked up another card for the other day. It's Gizmex. If I take out all the board breakers and the staples, I've probably built the core. I've still not quite finished yet for probably no more than £5–10, and it's perfectly playable even with like 4 cards from the core I still need to get hold of, and then there's 2 other cards I need to get hold of to finish the deck before I add a couple of bits in. But deck's basically there. But as I say, most of this time I'm picking up singles from Card Empire or other shops. So when I go on holiday, I'll also try and find local game shops to go have a look around. I picked up some when I was down in Kent. I went to one. I cannot remember the name of now, but I managed to get some of the Magician Girls were a Dark Magician Girl deck Dark Magician deck I was working on. They're really good places because, one, you can meet other gamers. 2, speaking to the staff, you know, the ones I've been to, they know what they are about, and they'll know if they've got a card or not, and if they don't, you can ask them to keep an eye out for it, and if they do, then put them onto one side. But also just, well, my experience, the ones I've been to, it does say, you know, happy just to chat before you get to know them, you know, and you have discussions about what the meta's doing, um, you know, what casual decks am I making, what competitive decks. You have those conversations and you can discuss stuff. You know, and if they're sorting cards, they might ask you what your opinion on some cards are, on some of the more obscure cards. But you need to build that rapport. Also, these tend to be your smaller shops, so which you should support where possible to keep them going, because otherwise it will be really hard for people to get cards. So that's your local side. Go on, you can find these online dead easy. If you Google just search local game shops. Start looking at them because these small shops are really useful for picking cards up cheaper than you might find them online. Speaking of online, there's three main places people go to or use for comparing prices. That's Card Market, TCG Player, and eBay. So I'll talk about Card Market and TCG Player first. So Card Market is Eurocentric, whereas TCG Player is American centric. You can. They're both fairly similar. Just bear in mind if you in the other one you want to buy European or American copies, depending, vice versa, depending on where you're based. Just bear in mind you might still have to pay duty, or if it's coming from another country. But you go online on them, and you can you type in the card you want, and it'll come up with all the versions. So if you want it in a particular rarity, so you're building a nice high rarity deck, you can do that. It'll give you all the sellers once you've kind of logged in your price range. So how many copies they've got and what they're selling them for, so then you can make a decision. Sometimes you do have to buy from 2 or 3 people to get a playset, but if you're after one, or you can pick up 2. Oh, it's great. It's great. You just to be aware, I don't know about TCG Player because I've never used it, but Card Market, you need to have either pay online or do a bank transfer, so you've got money on your account, ideally before you get into a sale. But they protect you if things go missing, whatever, and you rate each other. So I'll rate the seller if I'm buying, which I have done in the past, on how well they represented their cards, how well they've been packaged, and I'll represent you on how quickly you paid, etc. So there's a rating system. TCG Player, I imagine the same, but you can pick up. I know people who buy the American ones over in the UK. They prefer the American stuff. eBay, now it's just lost its seller's fees. You can still sell, but just bear in mind nothing will be below 99p, and it's entirely possible for people to be selling for far more expensive than you'll find on Card Market and TCG Player. A note with buying singles from other countries: it is fine to play any language in the TCG as long as it's Europe or America, and America you can play all the Europe cards. You cannot play OCG, which is Japan and the rest of Asia where they play the OCG, because they are different thicknesses of cards. So, for example, in my Blue Eyes, I'm running an original art Italian Blue Eyes White Dragon. It's fine to play. It doesn't particularly have any effects, but if you do want another language, as some people do, you speak it, whatever, just bear in mind you to either have the English one or use the Neuron app for translation, just so people know what it is, so you can't sit and go, ah yes, this card says this, definitely. which most players won't do, but you never know. But sometimes people just like playing. Like I want to deck out a couple of my decks in the more mix of languages because I sometimes think that could be quite cool in itself. But yeah, so yeah. I mean, so they try buy local. Sometimes you have to use card markets or TCG player to buy stuff. Sometimes find your local shop, getting known there, speaking to them. That's what I do. I'm down. I pop in 3 times a week just to look through stuff and chat to them. It's really good for community. Really good to support local shops, particularly at the moment. So yeah, support your local shop. Support yeah. So, but if you have to go to card markets, because that will have more of a range of cards or TCG play, then that's also fine. Just so you guys know where the best places are to get there, get singles. So yeah. Feel free to like and subscribe for more videos. And I'll see you next time.